Ciao. Anyway, so
Hi everyone, in today's video we'll be making an off-the-shoulder dress. Mark the center of the shoulder on your front bodice block. Trace from the bottom of the side dart to the marking. Put your pen in the bust point and rotate the side dart closed. Trace the rest up to the block marking. Draw a line perpendicular to center front from the bottom to the dart. Mark your bust radius from the bust point all around the bust point. Cut up the bottom line and middle dart line, leaving a bit attached. Overlap the dart legs on top and tape down as shown. Tape center front of the bodice down, flip and trace. Mark 3.5 inches into the armhole. Draw a line from there to just before the right hand side dart. Draw a line in the center of the dart and a line from the dart tip to the neckline that is perpendicular to the neckline. Cut along both lines, leaving a bit attached, and mark 1/2 inch on the neckline. Rotate until the top line hits the mark and tape down. Redraw the neckline from point to point. Add 1/2 inch seam allowance all around and 1/4 inch on the neckline. Round out the dart mouth. Cut out the top bodice piece as shown. Add 1/2 inch all around the bottom bodice piece except at center front because we'll be cutting on fold. Trace the back bodice. Rotate out the dart and trace up 3.5 inches into the armhole. Draw a line perpendicular from center back to the underarm, 1/2 inch all around except 1/4 inch on top. Trace the sleeve. I only traced 3.5 inches of the underarm to match the front, and the sleeve is 3.5 inches long. Draw straight lines along the top and bottom, divide into 4 sections. Slash those lines up to the top, leaving a small amount attached, and spread the slashes by 1.5 inches and tape down. Add 1/2 inch all around the sleeve. Measure the dart mouth, divide that by 2 and mark that amount on each side of the middle of that dart, then notch those marks. Starting with the back skirt block, trace just before the dart and then rotate the first dart closed. Repeat to the second dart and then trace around the rest of the skirt, stopping at the bottom. I made my skirt 16 inches long, but you can make it however long/short you would like. Mark that and then draw a line coming out of that point at 90 degrees and then blend into the bottom. Take the front skirt block, trace just before the dart and then rotate the dart closed. Then trace around the rest of the skirt, stopping at the bottom. Mark the length and then draw a line coming out at that point at 90 degrees and then blend into the bottom and add 1/2 inch all around. Pin the back facing, I traced 2 inches of the top of the back bodice piece and then cut that out for the facing. And then to the back bodice panels right sides together and sew out a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Sew long stitches from notch to notch on the top bodice pieces but at the bottom bust line. Sew 1/8 an inch away from the edge, pivot and sew back 1/8 of an inch away. Gather so that the width is equal to the pattern width measurement, excluding the open dart space. Pin the lining piece to the bodice. I just used the same fabric and sew it 1/4 inch. Understitch the facing, press the seam allowance toward the facing and sew it down. Pin the back skirt pieces to the front at the sides, leaving the middle open, sew right sides together at 1/2 inch. Pin the top bodice pieces to the bottom panel. I sewed them on one after the other instead of pinning them on at the same time. This was just easier. Sew at 1/2 inch. Pin the back bodice pieces to the front, right sides together at 1/2 inch seam allowance, and sew at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Pin the bodice to the skirt right sides together and sew at 1/2 inch seam allowance. I made a facing for the sleeve by tracing and cutting the top 2 inches. Sew the facing to the sleeve at 1/2 inch seam allowance under stitch. Sew the sleeve underarm right sides together at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Iron in the hem 1/2 inch and then sew at 3/8 of an inch. Try on the bodice and wrap a piece of elastic around your arm where the bottom of the sleeve sits. Make sure it feels comfortable and cut that length. Sew the elastic on with a zigzag stitch all around the edge of the sleeve. Fold in the raw edge and zigzag stitch it down on top. I serged the raw edge beforehand. If you don't have one, that's okay, but it helps to finish the edge to keep the threads from coming off. To apply some elastic to the inside of the top of the sleeve. I did this to help prevent the off-the-shoulder shape from slipping down, and I also took in from the front bodice and the back bodice at the sleeve. I took in 1/2 inch of that, so I left the sleeve but just sewed extra 1/2 inch so it wouldn't slip down. But you might not need to do that, just depends. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. See you in the next video.